Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast, number 163, recorded live on July 15th, 2013. I am your host and consummate podcasting professional, Todd Klindt. And as always, for good or for bad, this Netcast is brought to you and sponsored by and supported by the fine folks at Rackspace, my employer, and the folks that gave me that cool flag, Rackspace.com. And so they've got a lot of cool stuff there. You can do hosting, Linux hosting, WordPress hosting, whatever. More importantly, SharePoint hosting. And you can go to sharepoint.rackspace.com and find out about all of our great SharePoint opportunities. And if you look there, you can sign up for a 45-day free trial of SharePoint 2013. Sign up for that, and you'll get a free SharePoint 2013 site collection, and you can hang out and see how that feels. So go to sharepoint.rackspace.com and tell those guys I sent you. All right, so had a bevy of problems tonight, but we're getting through all those. But we do want to go on to our production notes. It's a good time for everybody. Time I get to talk to you all about all the stuff I've done wrong last week. If you guys remember, last week in Netcast 162, I recorded from my hotel room, and I recorded on a Surface Pro, and I streamed with a Surface RT. And it honestly went pretty well. The Surface Pro, the software that I just used the built-in Movies app, which took phenomenal video. The video file when I got done was 4.5 gig. It was huge. It didn't let me pick my microphone. I had my microphone and all that stuff, and I even had a little USB audio adapter plugged into the side to get to use my regular mic. It wouldn't let me pick that. So if I do that again, I'm going to have to use a different program to record, Camtasia or something like that. But it worked really well, other than the hotel internet pooped out on me. And I forgot about the fact that there's a Ustream client for my Android phone, and I actually have a tripod mount for my phone. I should have just used that. I could have used that, gone live. You folks at home would have had to suffer through video, but you're used to that. I assume most of you have bad eyes or monitors that are going out, or you sit in rooms that are really darkly lit if you're watching me live anyway. But we could have done that, so I learned a lot of lessons from that. I'll know better next time. But I think for traveling, I think that's a doable setup. So I'll probably do some of that in the future. Probably use the Surfaces. They're small, they're light. I'm going to be traveling here a couple times in the next couple of weeks. So look forward to more of that kind of stuff. It makes me a little more nimble, makes it easier for me to do these things. So that worked out well. And thanks to everybody in the chat room. Got a lot of the same folks here as I did last week, and they kind of helped me troubleshoot that stuff and stuck with me, so I appreciate that. One of the things Doug in the chat room mentioned is that on Ustream, so I'm obviously streaming this on Ustream. If you sign up for Ustream, you can sign up for notifications, and then you'll get an email when I go live on Ustream. So you can obviously follow me on Twitter. I try to tweet these things. I try to be fairly consistent. Monday nights, 8:30 Central. If you're bored, looking for stuff to do, you can usually hop on to toddklindt.com/SharePoint or toddklindt.com/Netcast, and you'll see me there. But sometimes I'm a little late. I was a few minutes late tonight. So signing up for that email thing from Ustream is a really good idea. So thanks to Doug for mentioning that. But that brings up another point. I have toyed in the past with doing that myself, having an email blast and just sending it out when I go online, and that way people would know, they could get it on their phones or whatever. Has anybody got an interest in that? I know I've floated it before and haven't gotten a lot of support for that. But if anybody's interested in that, me just having an email thing that goes out that says, "Hey, I'm online. Here's a URL. Load it up." If you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll put that together. I pretty much know how I'm going to do it already if people sign up for it. I can use the PowerShell commandlet send mail message. I would just have an XML file or something like that of email addresses. I would run a PowerShell script that would send it all out. I wouldn't sell anybody's email addresses to anybody or or that kind of stuff. But people consume things in different ways. Some people look on Twitter, some people look in their email, all that kind of stuff. So this is another one of those things where I just want to make it as easy for everybody as possible to consume this stuff. So we've already got one person in the chat room, Doug. He'd signed up for the email. So I don't want to take any business away from Ustream. Jason in the chat room, he's saying he's doing it. I'm right. I'm putting it in my notes right now, folks. Do the email dealy. Do the email dealy dummy. Okay, so I'll figure out a way, to have people sign in and all that kind of stuff. But that way, when I'm online, that kind of stuff. But that's just another one of the things. And as we're talking about production notes, let's talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can consume this. I'm going to talk. My next topic is going to be a little bit about this. But you can go to YouTube and you can go to toddklindt.com/ youtube.com/toddklindtnetcast, and that will I publish all my netcasts there. So if you subscribe to that on YouTube, then you'll get a thing when you go to YouTube that tells you that I published a new one, and that is that's quickly becoming my favorite distribution method because of how good YouTube's publishing tools are. If you guys have ever had any interest in publishing on YouTube and thought, nobody cares about what I've got to say, or it's too hard, man, YouTube's publishing tools are great, and they've got great analytics and all that kind of stuff. And so that has quickly become the fastest way to get the video version of this netcast because of how great their tools are. And Justin King, our marketing guy, he's pretty savvy with YouTube. So you'll notice if you go to YouTube and look at Netcast 162, he told me this cool thing where in the description, if you put a time, then YouTube makes that a hyperlink and takes you to that point in the video. So, and I forgot, I don't have a note taker this week. But normally, Lori Gowan, who's on vacation, I gave her a week off. She lists, or she keeps track of when I talk about every topic, and then I put that in my show notes. Well, now when I do that in YouTube, I can put that time in there, and if there's just one subject you want to hear about, you don't want to suffer through the whole thing, and I don't blame you. The people who listen to this thing start to finish, they're saints, every one of them. But if you just want to hear about a specific topic, then it'll be in the notes that way. You can just click the time signature, and it'll take you right there to the video. So youtube.com/ToddKlindtNetcast. Great way to consume all this stuff. Also, you can go to my blog, toddklindtnetcast.com/blog, and for every netcast I create a blog post, so you can subscribe to them that way as well. And then I've got RSS feeds for audio and video, so if you've got different devices that you want to sign up for RSS feeds, you can import it into iTunes or Zune or whatever and get it however you want. So I think I've covered most of the bases, but if you have any suggestions about any other way that you'd like to see me publish this or distribute it or whatever, by all means let me know. You can find me at Twitter at Todd Klindt, or you can email me todd.klindt@rackspace.com. And again, I'm trying to make this better. I'm not saying every suggestion I get I'm actually going to do, because I get a lot of suggestions for having somebody else do the netcast. Anyway, but that's good feedback. I mean, I hear these kind of things and it helps me figure out, because I've got a finite amount of time, I can't do everything, but if I see good ideas that are easy to implement, I will absolutely do it. The YouTube one was one that I picked up at the new Media Expo in January, NMX. So I was out there, and that was great. It was like the first time I'd gone to a non-SharePoint conference in forever, and I sat in on a bunch of video podcasting sessions. And one of the guys was, that's just one of the things he said, put your video everywhere. And I said to him, how do you know how popular you are? I mean, how do you know, how many people are watching your stuff? And he's like, honestly, it doesn't matter, because I'm given to the community and I'm driving people to my blog, and that's what matters. He said, but every one of these places has good tools, you'll find out. And so that was kind of what motivated me to go to YouTube. Been real happy with it. Been really happy with it. Right now, I've been hosting everything out of SharePoint, and for those of you who've tried this before, SharePoint's not the best platform for publishing audio and video. It might not even be the second best or third best platform, but I do it to eat the dog food and learn things, and I've learned a bunch of things hosting my blog and my netcast in SharePoint. And so that's kind of why I've been doing this, but I'm beginning to think that I need to spend a little more time on YouTube. And talking about that also, the last couple of netcasts that I've done, I think starting with 161, I did a different intro. I kind of spruced that up a little bit and changed a little bit on how I produce that. And also, I've not been consistent on video size, and because of YouTube and how that's formatting, I'm going to be focusing a little more on that and making sure that everything's always 16 by 9, you know, it's always widescreen, and just kind of making this thing a little less Mickey Mouse. No offense to our friends down at Disney, by the way. But once again, if you've got any suggestions, at Todd Klindt or todd.klindt@rackspace.com. All right, so I mentioned in the production notes that one of our topics was going to be about production. And it's because it sort of isn't all just production notes. So one of the things that I've been doing is I've sort of moved the video format over to MP4 files. So when I started this thing 4 years ago, I produced a WMV file for Windows and I produced an M4V file for Apple devices, because there wasn't really one good standard video format that they both recognize well. Time has passed, you know, we've all gotten more mature. I've got a little less hair than I used to, but one of the good things that's come as time has passed is that the MP4 format has become pretty ubiquitous. And this is kind of a weird thing. The way I stumbled across this was I built a brand new Windows 7 box, and there was an MP4 on it, and I double clicked it and it played. And I'm like, wow, I didn't catch that Windows had this codec built right in, the H.264 codec. So why am I producing a separate one for? So I'm moving all of the video to MP4 files, and and so I had some people who were downloading that. A couple of people, Chuck was one of the folks, Mike Zappacosta out in New Jersey, sent me emails or tweets, I think I got one of each, saying that the video wasn't downloading correctly. So I checked on a couple different browsers. Depending on how I hit the MP4 file that I had on my server, it either would render or I would get a big splash of crud on my screen. Binary stuff looked like the Matrix, which is probably better to look at than me, but the sound was horrible. And so I dug in and started investigating it. And what the problem was there was no MIME type for MP4 files on my file server in IIS. So what was happening was when people request that MP4 file, every web server, IIS, Apache, all that kind of stuff, looks at the extension of the file, looks for the MIME type, which MIME is an abbreviation for something about how you encapsulate binary stuff in text as it comes across the wire, and basically tells the application, so your web browser or whatever, what kind of file it is. Not just the extension, but what it is, what type of file. And in this case, I didn't have a MIME type, so it just came across as binary. Some browsers knew what to do with it, some didn't, so you had a different experience depending on how you browsed to the site. So I had to add a MIME type to IIS that said this is a video file and it's an MP4 file. And as soon as I did that, then everything worked. And so I did that on IIS, so not technically a SharePoint thing, on IIS, and I did it at the root of IIS, so I did it at the server level. I didn't do it at the web app level. I could have, but there was really no reason because I wanted it that way for all of my web apps. And so Doug in the chat room and Mark have told me that MIME stands for Multipurpose Internet Mail Extensions, or MIME. And so that's what that problem was. So I apologize to you folks who've been trying to download the MP4 version of this, and it wasn't working as of last Thursday or something. It should be good to go. So I'm gonna start standardizing on MP4 files, and probably at some point. Right now I've got a feed for iPod video and a feed for Windows video. I'm probably going to get rid of those, and I'm going to make just a video feed since I'm only producing one file now. And the RSS format has a redirect tag, so I'll just probably replace those two feeds with this redirect tag and say, really, I'm over here now, and I'm going to move to that. But that's probably a few weeks down the road. I got some stuff coming up. But if you have any problems with the MP4 files, let me know. And again, I'm going to try to standardize on a size and a format and all that, so that we don't have to play the guessing game every week. Excuse me, on how big the file is going to be and what it's going to look like. So thanks for sticking with me on all that. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about, this was a fun little blog post from a friend of mine and a guy that is often in the chat room, Chris Givens, and he posted a blog post on getting more out of the Office Web Apps 2013 and SharePoint 2013. So any of you guys that have sat on a SharePoint 2013 session with me, you know, when I've talked about installation or configuration, you've had to suffer through me talking about how great the Office Web Apps are. So we first got the Office Web Apps in SharePoint 2010, and it allowed in-browser versions of Word, Excel, OneNote, and PowerPoint. And it was a way to work on those documents without having the actual application installed on your machine. And this was kind of a Microsoft's answer to the Google Docs thing that came out, in-browser word processing and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool in 2010, but it was very, very much a V1 product. Very rough around the edges. If you looked at it cross-eyed, it would start corrupting your documents. Nah, I made that up. But it was tough to get working, all that. But it was there, and it was pretty cool. In 2013, they boosted it up a little bit. It's got no reason to be embarrassed now. Now it's its own product, so it has to be installed on its own server, and it does all the things that the 2010 version did, but a whole lot more. And out of the box, RTM, it works pretty well. Again, it bolts up with SharePoint 2013, like its predecessor did with SharePoint 2010, but it does it a little differently now. It uses a protocol called WAPI, and again, I didn't look WAPI up, so I'm sure you folks in the chat room will be kind enough to tell me what WAPI stands for. But it's an open architecture for passing documents back and forth and rendering them in the browser. So out of the box, there are WAPI, so there's WAPI support for all the Word and Excel and all those kind of files. If you add the March 2013 public update to the Office Web Apps, then you add PDF support as well. Now there's a couple of things you have to do, but it will allow you to preview PDFs in your browser. It'll allow you to preview them in search results and all that kind of stuff. And it allows the option, if you want to edit the PDF, it'll give you in the PDF interface, it'll convert to a Word doc so you can edit it and all that. Pretty slick stuff, pretty cool. Even cooler is now that Office Web Apps are their own server and they've got this WAPI protocol that they use, they're not just bolting into SharePoint anymore. Now they can bolt into other things. They can bolt into Exchange, they can bolt into Link, and so now you can do all that kind of stuff. So now imagine you've got Outlook Anywhere, and you're on a machine somewhere that doesn't have Office installed. If somebody emails you a Word doc and you've got the Office Web Apps bolted into Exchange 2013, now you can fire up Word 2013 in your browser out of Outlook Anywhere. Pretty cool stuff. And another thing that you could do is you could actually wire the Office Web Apps up to render documents out of a file share. Pretty crazy stuff. But that never really worked. And now that's the roundabout way that gets us to Chris Givens' blog post. So he talks about, the title of it is Taking the Office Web Apps 2013 and SharePoint 2013 integration one step further. And that extra step is file shares. So he talks a little bit about what the problem is. If you dissect the URLs that the Office Web Apps use, you can see how you're passing the location of the document to the Office Web Apps and it's rendering it into your browser. But if you tried to pass a file system URL in there, a file : / link in there, then it wouldn't work. And turns out the reason it wouldn't work was a permissions problem, and that was because the Office Web Apps server runs as a built-in account on its server. It runs in as the network service, I believe, and that network service shouldn't have access to the files in that file share, so the Office Web Apps just can't open them up. So what Chris walks you through is he shows you how to change the identity of the Office Web Apps app pool and give that app pool permission to the files on there so that you can read things through. Now, Chris does it so. Chris is a really smart guy, and Chris is one of these guys whose brain is always trying to figure things out. And so, I'm sure at some point somebody said to Chris, "Hey, the Office web apps don't work with a file share." And Chris's mind said, "I will sit in this room until I figure out how to make this work." I just know that's how Chris is. And so he figured out how to make it work, but unfortunately, it opens up a fairly nasty security hole. So read Chris's blog post. He talks about how to get it set up. He talks about how to get around to how to mitigate this this security issue. But the goal, the takeaway from this is read the entire article. So in the chat room, Doug posted a rhetorical question. He said, "Why would you have a file share with Office documents if you have SharePoint?" Good question, right? But I would say that it's not assumed that everything should be in SharePoint. Now, for Office documents, and in the context of the Office web apps, you could make a pretty solid argument for it. But then somebody else mentioned in the chat room, Mark Christman, mentioned that SharePoint storage is expensive. It's managed in SQL. It's probably some of the most expensive drive space you've got on your system, in your environment, and it's going to be backed up a lot. And so for old, stale Word documents, potentially they would be out there. There's a bunch of reasons. I agree. There's probably those Word documents and all that are probably best served in SharePoint, but it does come up. I've seen it before. It does happen. But please read Chris's blog post, and it's at blogs.architectingconnectedsystems.com, and you'll see Chris in there as CJG. Good blog post. And if you don't follow Chris's blog posts or follow Chris on Twitter, you should. Like I said, Chris is a really smart guy, and he really loves getting into the nuts and bolts of things. So if you like understanding how things work, Chris is a good guy to follow. Okay, so let's talk about another one. So a couple of weeks ago, I talked about some stuff you can do with your search topologies. There were some posters that Microsoft had put out. I think I forget all the stuff that I linked to. But last Tuesday, Microsoft released a test lab guide to configuring highly available SharePoint Server 2013 search. And so it walks you through building a 3-tier farm, installing multiple app servers, configuring search on multiple servers, and configuring the different bits to make it highly available. So I wish they'd have put that out when I talked about it the first time, but that's a really great read. Read through that. This has come up a couple of times just in talking to people, but also I've got a blog post on how to configure search in SharePoint 2013 in PowerShell so that you can control the database names. And that very much has been used exclusively by me in single server environments, and it looks like it doesn't have as much error handling as it should. It doesn't handle things as well, and I've gotten multiple comments in my blog about that. So I need to go through and revisit that. But one of the things that somebody suggested was maybe it doesn't work because there are multiple machines in the farm, so I need to test that. So for now, if you need to install all that stuff in a multiple server environment, check out this guide. It'll walk you through, explain the different pieces of search, what needs to be highly available, and all that. Good stuff from Microsoft there. Well done, Microsoft. Well done. I'm going to move this up in my notes so that I can get those links good. Okay, so another thing, this doesn't seem SharePoint related, but the last few topics that I want to talk about are all related, so I'm going to put those all together. So you guys for the last month and a half-ish have been forced to listen to me go on and on about how much I love my Surfaces, specifically my Surface RT device. I got a Surface RT at TechEd New Orleans for $99, and that was the first week of June or whatever. I haven't put the thing down, and it's been a great thing. I've traveled a bunch with it. Last week when I was in San Antonio, I didn't take my laptop. I took my Surface RT and my Surface Pro. I only ever used my Surface Pro for my Netcast. I went into work the next day, used my Surface RT the rest of the day, had no problems with it, and then used it to keep me occupied on my flights and all that, including my delayed flight It's just a good little tablet. Again, it's not a full Windows desktop. You can't install every piece of shareware you find on the internet, but it's got Office, it's got Mail, it's got Outlook. If you put the Windows 8.1 preview on it, it's just a good little device. The problem, though, is unless you happen to be at TechEd or WPC or something like that, you couldn't get an RT device for $99. You got one for $500. And while I love the pants off of my RT at $99, at $500, it's kind of a tough sell, and I acknowledge that it's tough. This week, Microsoft dropped the price of those to $350, and I forget if it's the 64 gig or the 128 gig version, but the Surface RT device is now $350. Now it's getting closer to what the price ought to be. I would argue that it maybe should still be a little cheaper, but for $350, you've got some thinking to do. So I still have it sitting over there, an Android device, and it was a tablet and a convertible and all that kind of stuff, and I used it everywhere. I used it for probably a year and a half. Served me well. Took it when I traveled, and I haven't touched it since I got the RT. So it's been a good device. If you've been Surface RT or Windows RT curious, now's a good time to take a look at that. You're going to see a lot of people hating on the Surface RT on the internet. My good friend Paul Thurrott just published a blog post today talking about how terrible it was, calling it a piece of junk. In my blog post, and I think it's at toddklindt.com/don'thateRT, I kind of talk about expectations a little bit and make sure you understand you're buying a tablet, you're not buying a desktop. But one of the things you're going to see the haters talk about is that this is clearly just a fire sale because the Surface 2s are right around the corner and you're buying an obsolete piece of crap. That's just not true. So a couple of things that I want to say about that. Number one, at some point there probably will be another Surface device. There will be a Surface 2 sometime. I'm not saying that there's not. But I don't think it's going to be right around the corner. And the reason that I don't think it's going to be right around the corner is a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft had the Build Conference. And the Build Conference is all for developers, people who build things. And I think last year at Build, they all got free Windows phones before you could buy them. This year, I think a bunch of them got Surface Pros. But the idea that Microsoft has is to get that hardware out in the hands of people who can write stuff for it. And so my opinion is that if there was a Surface 2 around the corner, like, within the next couple of months, we would have found out about it at Build. And let's not forget that they announced the Surface devices months before you could actually buy them. They had that really crazy, last-minute marketing thing where they had the Surfaces, but nobody could look at them, and Ballmer got up and talked about it, and it was like 7:30 at night or something. If there were Surface 2s right around the corner, we would know about it. We would have some idea. We haven't heard hide nor hair of the Surface 2 from anybody except people who are trying to convince you not to buy the Surface 1. So there's that. The other thing is the Windows 8.1 preview is already out, and it already runs on Surface RT and Surface Pro. So we know that the next version of the operating system that isn't even out yet, that's probably not going to come out for another 2 or 3 months, it already works on this hardware. So it's not like it's going to be obsolete. It's still got however much use in it. So don't let the haters talk you out of it. If you're curious about getting a Surface RT, grab one. You'll be in good company. I've got it. I really like it. Okie dokie. Now the rest of the Netcast, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, patching. First, let's start off with the June 2013 cumulative update for SharePoint 2010 was out. It peeked its little head out and said hello to us all, and then scurried back into its little hole because it was not done. Microsoft yanked the June 2013 CU for SharePoint 2010 shortly after it came out. It destroyed a bunch of things, made people very unhappy. And that came back out, so it was released June 11th. It was pulled back June 27th, so it made it a little over 2 weeks. And then it was re-released last Wednesday on July 10th. So the new build version for that is 14.0.71 2002.5004, and that is the new version. I have installed that on one test server so far, and it did not blow up. I wouldn't call that a ringing endorsement necessarily, but it didn't explode. So, as always, don't be installing this right into your production environment. Don't be dumb. Put this in a test environment. Kick it around. Let it set for a month, because this one, the previous version got yanked. It was more than 2 weeks. So, sit on it, and again, only install this cumulative update if it fixes something that you have that's broken. And as always, to keep up on all this, you can go to toddklindt.com/SP2010builds. You can also follow me on Twitter at SP2010patches for all the SharePoint 2010 patching stuff. Like when the patch got pulled, I tweeted that. When it got re-released, I tweeted that. So you can keep up on all that there. And I don't tweet anything else from that account other than SharePoint 2010 patching stuff. So as for now, the June 2013 CU for SharePoint 2010 hasn't exploded anything yet. I don't know. All right, so that's one patch. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, like everybody, I do love me some Patch Tuesday. So the the second Tuesday of every month, Microsoft unleashes a bunch of patches for stuff, usually security patches, things like that. And this month was a doozy. There were a couple of fairly nasty patches that went out, but these were tricky. They were patches not for SharePoint, but they still break SharePoint. So the first one I want to talk about is MS13-052, and that is a .NET patch that breaks SharePoint. And so watch out for that. And Trevor Seward has a blog post on that. That'll be in the show notes, but he's got that at SharePoint.nauplius.net. You can read up on that. And then there was another patch, MS-055, which was a patch for Internet Explorer that did some crazy stuff with JavaScript that I saw some reports on also. So be careful with that. So here's the story on Windows patches. You all know how I feel about SharePoint patches. Don't be a dummy and install them if you don't need them. Let them sit, all that kind of stuff. These Patch Tuesday patches can get kind of scary though, because they're usually security-ish in nature, and they come out in a different environment. You can just not install a SharePoint patch, just not download it, not install it, and that's pretty easy. These Windows patches though, normally you've got a network team and they run a WSUS server and they just push the stuff out after they test it. I can guarantee you they're not testing your SharePoint servers. They don't even know what SharePoint is, and if they did, they'd think it was terrible. They don't care. So, my recommendation for you guys, if you're not in charge of your own Windows patching, if you're big enough that you've got a WSUS server and people there that approve patches and all that kind of stuff, see if you can get your SharePoint servers put into their own WSUS group so they don't get patches pushed out with the rest, and then push those out to your test farms, things like that, because these do break stuff. Now, since these are Windows patches, you normally have the flexibility of being able to uninstall them, unlike a SharePoint patch, which you can't. So you've got that going for you, but you have to be very careful. This can cause outages. This can cause all kinds of problems. In the chat room, Vlad was asking what the new install, what my opinion was on new installs of SharePoint 2013, what version I put on that. Right now, Vlad, I'm putting the March 2013 public update on them. Microsoft has said that that's the kind of what they consider the baseline. The April CU that came out a month later had some problems, and just not a big fan of that, so I kind of left that alone. And then we've got the June one that just came out, and so I'm not ready to endorse that one yet. I haven't seen it long enough. So for right now, when I install new SharePoint 2013 environments, I put the March 2013 public update on it. And I do want to give a shout out. Vlad's in the chat room. Vlad's been in the chat room a bunch lately, and he's a big contributor to SharePoint-community.net. He's got a blog out there. He's got some pretty good blog posts. So if you're looking to add some new blogs and websites to your SharePoint list, you can't do a lot better than going to SharePoint-community.net and adding them in. There's a lot of good stuff there. And they've got some of the big names there. Vlad posts there, Wendy Neal, Mark Anderson. You'll recognize everybody that posts there. All good stuff, all smart people. So check that out. But be careful with your patches. If you do have a problem with a Windows patch, you know, it breaks something and all that, by all means, send me a tweet, send me an email, and all that kind of stuff. And let me know. If I've heard anything, I'll let you know, and maybe it'll show up on this Netcast, and you'll be able to save other people some problems. That's how these two topics came up. I had a couple of people get a hold of me and say, hey, have you heard anything about this? This patch is breaking stuff. I started looking into it, and sure enough, there were some problems. So by all means, do yourself a favor by getting this out. Do me a favor. Do your fellow SharePoint administrators. Do them a solid, too. They appreciate it. All right, so that is all of the topics for this evening. Now we're going and we're going to do some self-promotion. The first thing, of course, you got to buy the SharePoint, the Professional SharePoint 2013 administration book. Everybody's doing it. All your friends have probably got one already. They probably think a little less of you because you don't have one. So go ahead and fix that. You can go to toddklindt.com/pro SP2013 admin. Get all the deets about it. Link to the Amazon page for it. You can buy it from there. And if you'd like a signed copy from me, then you can order one there. Set you up with a PayPal link. Right now, only folks in the U.S. Because I can't ship outside of the U.S. and not have it cost me money. I'm not selling these books to make money, but I don't want to lose money on everyone. So if you're in the U.S., I can do that. If you're in Canada, I can do it, but it costs me a couple extra bucks. So I'll probably, if you buy one from me and the shipping address is in Canada, I'm probably going to email you back and ask for like another $10. Again, just so that I don't lose money on the sale. Again, I'm not big on about making money. I just don't want it to cost me, because the cost of the book plus the cost of the envelope and all that, plus the cost to ship it to Canada, those three things add up to more than $50, which is what I'm selling them for on my website. So I need to at least break even. So a couple people in the chat room are sucking up and saying how great the book is. Love each and every one of you. Couldn't love you more. Make sure you go out to Amazon and tell everybody how you feel. Amazon reviews are very important. So do that. All right. So after you've done that, another cool thing is on August. Oh, geez, I should have looked this up. August. Oh, I've got it. Don't go anywhere. 7th, August 7th. Well, the whole week, really. The whole week of August 5th. Rackspace is doing this sizzling summer of SharePoint. And we're doing a bunch of free SharePoint 2010 webcasts. And we're doing 2 a day. So we're doing 10 over the week. We're doing the first group at 11 a.m. Central and the next group at 2 p.m. Central U.S. time. And there's configuring ADFS, there's creating custom master pages, just all kinds of crazy stuff, good stuff, free stuff. And yours truly, they're letting me do one, and I'm doing one called Using PowerShell for Fun and Profit with SharePoint 2010. And it's really just going to be an hour or 75 minutes or however long these things are, of me just walking you through doing some things in PowerShell. And these are things that I've actually ever done. I mean, things that people have come to me and said, hey, how can I do this in PowerShell with SharePoint? So I'm going to do them, and it's just going to be all demos and that kind of stuff, not very many slides. So sign up for that. They're all free. As of this morning, I had the most sign-ups, so let's do that. Let's keep that going. I would love to have more sign-ups, so you can go to that. Again, it's completely free. There's a GoToMeeting link in the show notes. And also, they're having a drawing for this, the person who brings the most sign-ups in, whether it's for your class or not. So when you sign up for the session, you can put a remark down there. Put my name in that remark. And I think if I get the most names, I think I get like a hug from Jeff DeVerger, something like that. So by all means, sign up for that too. Put my name in there. Even if you sign up for somebody else's, do that. So that'll be cool, all free. We're going to have a chat room. It's going to be kind of like my Netcast, except it's going to be demos, but I'm going to be using the same jokes. We'll have a chat room I'll answer questions from. It'll be great. Great fun, I promise. Now again, these are for SharePoint 2010, and the reason for that was because right now most of Rackspace's customers are still SharePoint 2010, so we want to do this for them. But my specific topic, the PowerShell topic, will be every bit as applicable for SharePoint 2013 as it will 2010. So I just need to make sure everything's going to work in 2010, but it'll all be good. All right. So, okay, so another cool thing, just today I booked my flights for SPTechCon in August, so that is the week after the sizzling summer of SharePoint. So starting Sunday the 11th through Wednesday the 14th is SPTechCon in Boston. I see in my chat room a whole bunch of people are from the northeast of the U.S. or the eastern side of Canada, southeastern Canada. I expect to see a lot of them there. I will be at SPTechCon. Shane and I are doing a couple of sessions. They will be fantastic, I assume, so long as Shane doesn't talk too much. That's you guys know how that goes. But we'll be there. We'll be doing, I think we have a booth there. I'm going to be hanging out. I need to talk to those guys and see if I can do this this mess there. They let me do it last time. It was great. We had a lot of good fun. But that's SPTechCon.com. And if you sign up for that, you can put my name in as a referral, and I get another hug for that too. So that's fun stuff. And finally, in September, so we've got July, we've got August. In September, I'm going to be teaching a SharePoint 2010 class in Des Moines, Iowa. So all of you folks who've always wanted to visit Des Moines, but have just never been able to find a way to do it, now's your chance. September 16th through the 20th, I'll be teaching our SharePoint 2010 administration class in Des Moines, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be at the Microsoft office in downtown Des Moines, and we're going to go through all kinds of crazy SharePoint 2010 stuff. I'll call out the SharePoint 2013 stuff as it makes sense, but again, we kind of did a poll of the businesses in Des Moines, and they mostly are still using SharePoint 2010, so that's what we're going to go with. But if you're going to go to that, give me a shout, let me know, and you can go to SharePoint911.com/training to find out all the details on that and sign up. So I would love to see you there. It would be great to have something. Doug in the chat room is saying that I seem to be needing a lot of hugs. Yes, I always like hugs. It's always so. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you guys know about the Hey Scripting Guy blog at Microsoft. That's the guy, Ed Wilson. So I hang out with Ed a lot because I like PowerShell. His wife, Teresa, the scripting wife, she's big on hugs. So every time I ever run into Teresa, I probably get 4 hugs. You know, one when you get there, one when you leave, one in the middle because it's just been a while since she's hugged you, and one because she just hugged somebody else, so she hugs you too. It's pretty crazy. So yes, hugs are always welcome, always good, even from Doug and the other folks in the chat room. So thanks everybody. Once again, if you've got any feedback, hit me up at Todd Klindt on Twitter or todd.klindt@rackspace.com. Keep those emails coming in. I get stuff all the time. Try to respond to it. If I don't, send it again. Let me know. So thanks everybody. I will be here next week. Hopefully be on a little earlier. Had some stuff happening here. Got me on late tonight. But thanks everybody, and have a good week, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Bye.